What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Brandon's Face. It's the podcast about a playlist. I'm Jonathan Beardsley.
And I am Brandon May.
Thank you all for tuning in. A little bit of music news before we get into the show this week, and that is Anima is going to be playing the Sphere, I believe, on New Year's Eve this year?
New Year's Eve this year. First EDM show.
I think visually he is one of the, 4 to 5 artists in the genre that you would want in this spot, right?
You know, man, it's funny because I saw a lot of the discourse on the internet, and a lot of people were saying the Chemical Brothers. I've actually since gone back on that. I don't think that their show is set up for a sphere like that. I also don't think that Eric Prydz' Hollow would be. I would actually lean more towards an Odessa or you know what I mean, or a Spangle or something like that.
Okay, Spangle is not going to play the fucking Sphere. Odessa maybe. Spangle definitely
there
not.
We go.
But thank you for pitching that.
Granted, he'll never play, but I'd love it if he did.
Yeah, I think Anima is going to be really good. I can't wait to see the early videos coming out of that performance. I think that's going to be really cool. It should be interesting. I think it's going to be a busy year. I know the UFC is going to be running an event out of there sometime this year. There's been a lot of Beyonce rumors going on. I feel like the Killers need to be the kind of obvious next booking for it. Maybe not a residency,
right.
But the Killers need to play the Sphere. That needs to fucking happen.
Vegas. They're the Killers.
I'm honestly surprised. Anima is a major artist, especially in the EDM space, but he's fairly niche in terms of American recognition. Were you surprised by this at all?
I was wildly surprised, John. I actually had no idea that I saw it and I was like, yeah, right. And then I saw a link and then clicked the link and I was like, wait a second.
If anything, I would have thought Tale of Us over Anima solo, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Very interesting, but well-deserved. You got anything else for music news before we start off this week?
No, actually, I'm good.
All right, let's dive in, man. We got a new one from deadmau5 under the Test Pilot alias. This song is called Wet. I thought we were getting a new deadmau5 EP, which is supposed to drop tomorrow night. Turns out we're getting a new Test Pilot EP. I'm not mad at that, especially if it's going to sound like this. His take on techno and adjacent sounds will be pretty fun, as is usually the case with deadmau5. What are your feelings on this one?
Joel is putting that new Euro rack of his to good use. His Test Pilot tracks are always great. This one's no exception. It does sound a little wet.
Yep. Yeah, I think that was intentional, man.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
Bit on the nose, but he succeeded for sure. All right.
Yeah. I was really, really stoked to share that photo with you of that just absolutely monstrous Euro rack that he showed off recently.
Dude. Yeah, his setup, and maybe I'll share that on the Instagram. You can share it on the Reddit. His setup, or people can just look up deadmau5's Euro rack. It's fucking insane. It's also just beautiful to look at how well it's put together. A work of art. For sure. True. All right, new one from SG Lewis and Ludes called Paradise. It's just another solid release this year from SG Lewis. He's really starting this new label off on a strong foot. What'd you think of this one?
Right, yeah, he is starting his label off. And, you know, man, I've been really loving the more house-centric stuff that he's been doing, that he's coming back to, rather. But he still has this, funk edge to it. It's all been really good.
Yeah, dude, I agree. I wonder if and when we'll get back into album mode. I don't think there's a rush considering he put one out last year, but I like the vibe he's been on lately. This one is very good.
For real.
All right, speaking of very good, a new one from Magdalena Bay. It's called Image. This is just fucking excellent, dude. It's my favorite of the rollout so far. They did announce the new album, actually. Let me see. I do have that somewhere here on my release calendar, if I can find it. August 23rd, their new album, Imaginal Disc, will be dropping. Are you a fan of this track, and are you now excited for the new album?
Magdalena Bay are back, baby. Oh, my God, John. This is fantastic.
Yeah, really, really good. I liked the last song. It hit the like notes I like a Magdalena Bay song to hit, but this one feels like top tier Magdalena Bay to me. So well done.
Yep.
New one from Tiffany Day called Kansas. I thought this one was great. An almost Deb Never like drowsy alt pop sound going on with it. I'm a big fan. You were a little hard on her last track. What'd you think of this one?
Honestly, I think she's got quite the voice on this one, dude.
Yeah. Did you like the like kind of distorted punches and the hook and like the production elements on it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this one is a far better song than the last one that we covered of hers.
Don't hate on Hella Boy Crazy, bro, just because you can't relate. Okay. All right. All right. We got a new one from Orville Peck and Beck. It's called Death Valley High. Are you a fan of this one?
The fact that that sentence just came out of your mouth, that we have a new Orville Peck and Beck.
Yeah, it's Peck and Beck.
Is Peck and Beck. Love that. A collab I really never would have guessed to happen. I love both of these dudes, so obviously I love this song.
Yeah, I have a very low tolerance for country to begin with. I really, really like Orville Peck. I sort of like Beck, but this one just did not do it for me. I remain optimistic for the Orville Peck album, though.
John, why does everybody sleep on Beck?
Scientology.
Okay, but like...
Where's Shelley? You know?
I don't know. You don't need to yell at me about it, man.
Knows.
I don't think Beck knows either.
You could be right. I could be hating a little too hard. Hey, Wow was a bop. 2 turntables and microphone, that's a bop. I don't know. I like Beck. I think he's a good artist. I just don't love his music, and I did not love this song.
That's fair. That's fair. I think that his music, the way he does his music is good, even when the music isn't good. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. I also have no idea how old this guy is, because I remember being very little watching him on MTV in the 90s, and he still looks relatively like early 40s-ish, but it just doesn't add up. The guy's not human. Something is not right. That's my take.
I don't think... Does Scientology make you not human?
Oh, I don't know if it's even religion or what. There's just something going on with Beck. We need to investigate it.
On the next episode of Brandon's Face is going to be our deep dive into musicians and science. I'm just kidding.
I knew the conspiracy theorist and you would love that. Oh, man. All right. We got a Knuckle Puck cover of Stick Season. Fucking kill me, Brandon. I hated this so much. I also just don't like the original song, so of course I wasn't going to like a cover of it. I still love Knuckle Puck. I will forget this immediately after this episode, but I really did not like this cover. Big surprise. You usually have a higher tolerance for covers like this, though. Did you enjoy it?
John, this is really bad.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Please, thank you.
I had a hard time giving it my 3 listens this week, and after I wrote my notes on it, I was like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah. Skip. Yeah, big skip. Moving on, we got one from Bare Hands called Floor It. I don't think we've talked about this band before, have we?
At the very least, not on the podcast. I am a gigantic fan of Bare Hands. I own their discography on vinyl.
Damn.
They put out Agora and 2 AM that were pretty big hits in the alt indie world, I want to say mid 2010s. And I just kind of, you know how I do. I find a song or a band that like has that sound for me, and I dove right in. And
yep.
Man, I love their music. This is a great song. I'm excited. Let's go. They've got a new album on the way, from my understanding. So I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, we'll definitely be checking that out. I didn't really have a lot of notes on this one. I just thought it was some really good indie pop, man. Solid. I did not know you
good indie pop.
Owned their discography on vinyl. That's crazy.
I do.
So that means by being your friend, I too own their discography on vinyl. Good for me.
You own half of every album.
Thank you. I call dibs on this one. You don't get...
Yeah, if we ever break up this podcast, I'll have to cut all of my vinyl records in half.
I look forward to watching that. All right.
Which half of... Never mind.
All right. Moving on to this new one from the Illuminati Hotties called Power. What are your thoughts on it?
I'm actually pretty excited for the new album. I was a bigger fan of their last one than I think you were. I don't think you disliked it though, but I liked this song. It's some indie rock.
Yeah, I agree. You are accurate. I didn't dislike it, but you definitely enjoyed it more. I thought this one was a grower, but once it clicked, I really enjoyed it. It's a good track.
They'll click with you, bro.
I'm sure it'll happen, man. I did like a few songs off that last album, quite a bit. All right, we got a new one from Paranol called Painless. I thought this was great, man. It might be my favorite track of theirs since Beautiful World. It's just one of the only things that they've put out since then that's kind of scratched the same itch for me. What about you?
Walks like a duck, talks like a duck, must be Paranol.
Yes. What do you think the secret to their, like, blown out mix whole thing is? Do you think they just don't mix it? Or do you think it's very intentionally mixed to sound like this?
It's gotta be a pedal, bro. I genuinely believe that there's a pedal. So this brings up a fun little exploration. What bands or artists you know that have used something so unique that has changed and made their signature sound so well? I know Caius, for example, Josh Homme's first band from when he went to Palm Desert High School. They actually plugged the guitar into a bass guitar amp, which gave it that really gritty kind of like way heavier sounding vibe.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that because this is unique, you know, it's impossible to deny, right? It's a unique mix, it's a unique sound. Whether that's done in post or whether it's done on the fly is something that we can only speculate on.
Yeah, it is really interesting. I don't really have a lot of other examples of that. I guess Data Life using the sausage fattener before that was like a publicly released thing, kind of giving that edge to their music. There's definitely something unique they do to make their music sound specifically Paranol, and I really like it, for sure.
Yeah, there's a ton of EDM artists who will use, like Bodzin, for example, will use only the one synth. And he'll use the one synth and he'll make 3 hours of music for an album with the one synth and a fucking drum machine.
That's great.
Which is neat, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's Bodson. Of course it's neat.
Well, without saying.
All right, we got a new one from King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, La Risk. Are you a fan of it?
I love that sentence that you just said. We were both wrong, John. It's not indie and it's not hip hop. It is classic rock. It's very early 70s. As a fan of that time period of rock, I have a number of, you know, early 70s rock and roll albums. I liked it. I have a feeling that the way you asked me that question means that you probably didn't like it.
I don't know. It hasn't really clicked for me yet. I don't really dislike it either. It's perfectly fine if you put it on, or if I put it on, I don't really like mind it. It doesn't really stand out to me, though. And it's not just because I hope everything they put out will be Petrodragonic again, even though I do, and that doesn't help. I just haven't really clicked with this specific track yet. But this sound doesn't bug me. I think that they're more than capable of making some jams with this type of sound. This song just hasn't done it for me quite yet.
You're not a big fan of Creedence Clearwater Revival?
Yeah, it's kind of what, like CCR meets Queens of the Stone Age. Like, it's got a little of that going on, which I don't mind. But we'll see how the overall album hits me when that drops.
We'll see. Maybe it'll take a different direction for you.
It might. You never know. With King Giz, you honestly never know, truthfully. All right.
Well, there could be a number of rap verses on here. We could still be wrong.
I can't fucking wait, man. Please. Get a Fred Durst rap verse on that next album. That's all I want.
Unironically, would bang.
Yes. 10 out of 10. All right, we got a new one from The Beaches, Takes One to Know One. I think they just get better with every song they put out. This is another instant classic for me. I'd be lying if I said I was expecting new music from them so soon after releasing that album last year, but I will happily take this, dude. It's great. What'd you think about it?
Oh, I loved it. Made me go back to Blame My Ex, which is it's just such a fun album, and oh, for sure. I hope we have another one on the way, and this isn't just like a one-off tour single, you know?
Same. All right, new one from Dinosaur Jr., Whenever You're Ready. It's more riffy indie from Dinosaur Jr. It's pretty good. What do you think about it?
You can tell that it's Dinosaur Jr. because of the way that it is. They don't mess with their sound because their sound is theirs. They get it again on this one.
Yeah, you get to do that if you make a sound, you know?
True.
All right, new one from Cliff Diver and Carpool, Going for the Garbage Plate. You a fan of this one?
Yeah, I'm missing the horns, though. There's no brass section.
Yeah, they've been a lot more pop punk, a lot less ska lately. This one's honestly a little more indie, too. I do like the overall output from them. I thought this track was solid. You and I were just talking about garbage plates on the podcast like 2 weeks ago, so
Right.
Shout out for the universe for bringing this one together for us. All right, new one from Mayday Parade. Pretty good to feel something. God bless Mayday Parade for never changing their sound even a little bit, dude. It still hits for better or worse. Did you enjoy this new one from them?
You were a little Mayday Parade hater last year, John. I liked this song, as I like most of their songs.
Yeah, I'm just a hater in general. That's why you do the podcast with me, Brandon. You need somebody
Right,
to
right.
offset your positivity.
We'll get into some Brandon haterisms later in
I
this one.
can't wait. All right, we got a new one from Like Roses called Broken Things, parentheses, Lie to Me. This is my song of the week, dude. I don't know what it is about their music or her voice, but I am obsessed with it. What about you?
So I think you showed me this band, I think,
Yeah.
and I love this song, dude. It's incredible. It's like a soft post-hardcore song, but it's got so much edge to it, and the mix is just God, it's so perfect for this style of music. I loved it. Loved this song.
I'm glad you loved it too, man. I still don't know if we're heading towards an EP. They've been touring a lot lately. I hope that this is them beginning to settle down and at least start working on a new project to release. Those two songs they put out last year paired with this one and a couple others would be an already classic for me. So I'm a big fan. Glad you are too, man.
Yes, sir.
All right, new one from Trophy Eyes and More. You a fan of this one?
Quality content from Trophy Eyes yet again. That dude has the yelling voice, but there's some extra hardcore riffage on this one. I really
Yeah.
liked.
Yeah, I love how fast good bands are following up good albums with good songs. I thought this track was really solid. I enjoyed it. And I think on their last album, I tend to like the songs that leaned a little more hardcore, especially in the riffage, like you were saying. And this track
Right.
doing that made me a fan pretty fast, for sure.
Yes, sir.
New one from a night in Texas called Death Protocol. This shit goes incredibly hard, dude. This is a nonstop ripper. Talk to me about your thoughts on it.
So Unique Leader Records normally releases like pure brutal death metal or like slam.
Sure.
This is like a MySpace era deathcore song, and
Yeah.
I had to like double take. I was like, wait, Unique Leader released this? Hell yeah, man. This is really good. There's like super slight symphonic elements along with some killer guitar work, and dude's vocals are great. I mean, this is the deathcore that I like.
Yeah, same, dude. I mean, you throw MySpace in front of any genre, and that is the version of that genre that I like. So, same, bro.
MySpace reggae.
Love it, bro. Is that Mickey Avalon? All right, we got one from Nile called "To Strike with Secret Fang." Are you a fan of this track?
I think we've got a new Nile album, either very close to being here,
I think
because
so.
I think this is the second or the third single. They're actually going on tour with 6 Feet Under, a double headlining tour. A lot of people are hating on Chris Barnes lately for his terrible vocals in the last album that they dropped, but they're actually bringing along a band that you and I both really liked when they dropped their album a year or two ago, Psychroptic.
Yep.
And they're stopping near me, so I might have to go do that in February.
Nile and Psychroptic sounds fun.
Right? I liked this song. I love Nile. Nile's always gonna have when I was a kid and I was discovering death metal and I was like, oh, Egyptian themed. All of it's Egyptian themed. There's a couple of their albums that I don't revisit very often, but I revisit a handful of them quite a bit. This album's shaping up to be pretty neat, so we'll see what happens.
Dude, the fact that they're still making music at this high of a level in 2024 just needs to be appreciated. This isn't just better than I thought it'd be. This is really, really good. So shout out Niall for crushing it. This is great.
I can't see any content about Egypt or mummies without being like, oh, I should listen to Nile. We watched The Mummy last year, and I went on just better listen to their discography.
Sure,
you know.
Sure. We need somebody to re-edit the Mummy movie with just a bunch of Nile tracks instead of the score and needle drops in there. That would be fantastic.
I will upload that to the Pirate Bay tonight.
Oh, man. Yes, please. All right, one more single this week. It's from Nails called Give Me the Painkillers. This was a last-minute ad, but after hearing it, I'm sure you can understand why. Their album does not drop until late August, but I am really fucking excited for it after hearing this one, man. Are you a fan as well?
It's my song of the week. So
No
yes,
shit.
yes, I am.
Yes.
Thank you so much for adding this last minute.
Of course.
Those two-step drums, the
Yeah.
unrelenting vocals, the guitar work, it's all there, bro. It's all right there.
It's fucking great, man. I'm very, very excited for that album.
Yes, same.
We got a couple EPs this week. This new one from Unearth, Bask in the Blood of Our Demons. Sick name, sick artwork. Following up their scorcher of an album from last year with these two tracks is just so fucking baller, dude. They do not miss. They didn't start now. This is an easy thumbs up for me. What about you?
Easy thumbs up, man. Yeah. A couple of new songs, couple of live renditions. I just had to throw them on. I love the new tracks, but the live version of The Wretched is
Ruinous.
insane, bro.
Yeah, it's slam.
After hearing that, I really regret missing their tour when they came near me. I still have yet to see them, even though every time anybody says On Earth, I hear the intro to Zombie Autopilot in my head because it's just seared into my memories as if I branded my brain with it. Yeah, I love their music, man. They do not have enough fans in the metalcore community because the kids just don't know, bro. So
they need to know. They need to know. Yeah, these songs fucking rip, dude. Huge fan.
Gigantic.
All right, talk to me about our obligatory minimal techno release of the week by Reth called Eons.
For the third week in a row, I'm focusing on drums, as I'm sure you and anybody who listened to it can tell.
Yeah.
Sharp, reverbed, just some of them are echoey. I know you liked those clappy things. This is actually out on a label that we haven't covered called Duplicity Records. I think it's Wreath. I don't know how to pronounce things. Never lets up on this one, and I loved it. He'll like take some elements out and then he'll throw them back in at the end, and it's like, yes, it plays like a little mini mix.
Yeah. And you said all the right words, you know, sharp, drums, claps, club. Like, that's all I'm looking for. Yeah, it probably is Wreath. I thought this EP was really good, man.
Good.
All right, are you ready to move on to the albums this week?
I can't wait, actually.
Oh, man. Please, start us off with your thoughts on the new Eminem album, The Death of Slim Shady, Coup De Grace.
This dude really fucking hates Christopher Reeves. It's not even the song that he wrote in 2004, which I think is New Dance. It's like he's on like the first track. It's hilarious. So a little bit of background on Eminem for me. I basically grew up on him. I had the Eminem show as a CD the week it released on CD. I was a very young child, but my parents, I grew up on gangster rap, so it wasn't anything that was, you know, far out there, right? But so I've been a fan of M since I was like 10 years old. So The Death of Slim Shady is an album that really took me back for a minute. There's like the now signature chopped up flow along with like a ton of old school Shady flows as well. This is a corny, it is offbeat, it's rude, and it's fun, John. If you're a fan of old school M, then it's likely that you liked this album. If you're a fan of post Eminem show Eminem, then you might not be like the biggest fan of this album. There's a ton of that kind of content here as well, though, mainly on the back half of the album when the concept kind of flips. The fact that he opens up trouble with fuck blind people means that we can disregard literally everything he says on this album, which is kind of the point, right? The dude has literally nothing to say on this, and I love that. There's a couple of things, though. So a couple of verses that are obviously really meaningful to him, but overall this album says nothing. But by the time you get to Guilty Conscience, Guilty Conscience 2, rather, which is one of the only songs that really does say anything on it, we find out something that we've kind of always known. I think he hates his past, and his success haunts him because who could ever live up to the Slim Shady LP and the Marshall Mathers LP? This is kind of exactly what I've wanted from M for a while, and the beat selection and overall production I think fits the mood and the vibe he was going for well. I think the features aside from Toby are all utilized really well because Toby is not that good of a track. Jid kills his feature on this one. I forget the song off the top of my head, but
Fuel.
Fuel, that's it. Yep. Jid knew that when one of the actual greatest of all time rappers asked him to feature. He knew he had to kill it, and he most definitely did deliver. I enjoyed this album, dude, and to prove him right, this is not an Eminem classic. It is not forgettable, but I won't be revisiting it as much as I do the Marshall Mathers LP or really the Eminem show. He gave the old school fans what they wanted, but he can never live up to what he nor his stans want him to, regardless of how much he tries. There was so much going on with his music and the overall monoculture that was basically dying by the time he had released the Eminem show that his music can't really have that quite like that level of impact, even if every bar on it is immaculate, and even though he says fuck Christopher Reeves 1,000 times, or Caitlyn Jenner, or Candace Owens, or whoever else he wants to piss off, he knew that he was never going to live up to it, and that's kind of why he dropped this as the Death of Slim Shady, because he wants people to shut the fuck up about it, because there's no way he's ever going to get back to it. It's a 6 for me. Fuel or Antichrist are my standouts. I'm dying to hear your thoughts, though, John.
That was an awfully generous review of you, Brandon. I hated this so fucking much. And I knew I would, but I will say he hasn't lost a step when it comes to technical ability. It just feels like he's trying way too hard to be edgy. And that shouldn't come as a surprise, since that's what he's kind of made his entire career about. But in 2024, calling himself a raper instead of a rapper is just fucking dumb, man. And that's how most of the bars on the album come across. Dumb. He just tries to get ahead of the criticism by addressing it on the opening track, but being self-aware about the dumb stuff you're saying does not absolve you from saying it. Taking the lyrics out of it, which is about 90% of this album, it's just another underwhelming album of his from a production standpoint as well. I've never been a big fan of his. That is well documented on the show. But I do remember when he was on top and how undeniable his talent was then. This album sounds like he has very little left to offer music. There's not a single new idea on here. He's dragging artists that are actually good, like JID, into his modern mediocrity. I like nothing about this. I'm going to give it a 2. I have no standout.
Yikes. Yikes, John.
It is what it is.
That was
man.
Harsh. That was seething. That was awesome.
Oh, if he can say
beautiful.
The things he said, then he can
that
sure
was
as hell
beautiful.
handle what little words I said.
That was beautiful. So let me ask you something. With an artist like Eminem, who is the Slim Shady LP and the Marshall Mathers LP and the Eminem show, there was so much that happened in that, what was that, 6 year period of time, 8 years maybe, to both him and his life and the FCC and MTV. I mean, there was so much happening, right? My entire point with it was that he couldn't ever come back to it, and so he made a stupid fucking album, which kind of worked for me, didn't for you. That's fair. So what do you think that he could do at this point to become like I don't think that he could ever make an album like anybody else does, because I think he tried that, right? He tried that with even like Music to Be Murdered By. He tried that with Kamikaze, where he utilized a lot of more trap beats.
I can
wasn't
answer
received
this.
well.
I can answer this right now, and this only applies to me, because obviously no answer to this is going to be the same for everybody, and he can't please everybody. I know that, myself included. For me, I want 50M and Dre back making music together, not just a one-off song on an album or with Ed Sheeran or some bullshit. Those three together make good music. Like, I want shit that feels like Till I Collapse. Like, his music just doesn't feel the same to me. He can try and say the same, like, stuff that he used to say to try and get your attention and be like, look at me, look at me. It just doesn't work anymore. We're so desensitized, for better or worse, to shit like this, myself included. So yeah, I think musically, if he wants to ever get my attention again, it's not going to be from doing something new, and it's not necessarily going to be from recreating a classic. It's just going to be from doing what he does best, working in that lane. And that's not to say an artist of his career or caliber can't experiment or do whatever they want in the twilight of their career, and this is the twilight of his career. Dyed beard and hair aside, don't let it fool you. Like, this is near the end if we're not already there. Dude's old. I have very diminishing returns with his projects. And you kind of said something. I think if you like his what, like the recovery era stuff, you're definitely not going to like this. I do think that that's true, because I do think production wise, those are some of his best albums, even though lyrically he's just an artist I've never gotten on board with. But what's your answer for it, man? What does he have to do musically for you to get past like a 6 on an album?
Well, I think he did this as a fine, fuck it. You want this? Here you go. Because people have been asking him to do this since Encore, if we're being honest, right? The song Brand New Dance was actually supposed to be on Encore, but it wouldn't have fit, right? It wouldn't have fit on that album. And so if that's the case and he put it on this one, he was trying to move past it, and it was never really well received, right?
Yeah.
I think in order for him to give a 10 is, you're right. It's Till I Collapse. It's Patiently Waiting. You know, it's tracks like that where he really channels himself and not a character he's trying to play.
Yeah.
If you go and listen to his early stuff, there's plenty of content there. We didn't need another one of these. I think he does have a lot of stands, and he touches on a couple of things that on this album that I think are really important. Like he says, they say I can't do this anymore because I don't know hardship. That's bullshit. My elevator don't work right now. You know, like I think a lot of it is so tongue in cheek, and the fact that he needs to take it the step further in order to prove that I can still write stupid fucking Caitlyn Jenner bars, but I don't anymore because it doesn't work. It was almost as if he put out a bad album on purpose so that he could prove to people that like nobody fucking wants this shit anymore.
Yeah. I mean, if that is it, then proven. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a step up from his like empty parking garage 2020 that's an awfully hot coffee pot type of flows that he was doing for a bit there. So at least he's rapping over some beats again. But
so listening to this album got me, and with the most recent beef that was happening, it got me, hey, this guy was in a beef recently. And then I realized that like I'm old, and like recently means within the last 10
Are you talking about
years.
Mariah?
No, I'm talking about Machine Gun Kelly.
Oh, okay.
This dude, I listened to Killshot again, and I remember back when it happened, I was like, man, this is fucking great. It is not as good as I remember it being, even though the bars are incredibly just destroying for Machine Gun Kelly. But
He was
nobody would, you know, like if like I bet if Eminem challenged Drake would just tweet, "Nah, I'm good," and
Not one
you
of
know,
the guys
but
you want to go against, no.
right, which is kind of the point, right? The dude is technically, as a rapper, probably one of the best. I mean, not probably, I mean, certifiably one of the best rappers of all time, right?
Yeah.
And so, but even then, I think it was 2018 when all that shit was going down. Even then, he was starting to do this thing where he does this pentameter, and nobody really liked it at all. And it just, to me, I'm glad that he stepped out of that, and maybe this album sparked a little bit of creativity, and he can move forward with newer music. But again, how rich do you have to be to stop being able to write music? You know, he has nothing to write about. Dude has literally everything he could ever want. So maybe it is time he calls it quits. Maybe Death of Slim Shady is the death of Eminem.
I mean, that's kind of what I think we're all going to have to wait and see. Is that just a concept of the album, or is this really it? Only time will tell there.
Well, I wanted to have the discussion with you because I've been dying to have the discussion since the day it dropped. I saw a lot of discourse online after I wrote my review, and a lot of people were saying, man, he's back. This is fucking great. And well, some of it is obviously I enjoyed more of it than you did, right?
Sure.
But it's definitely not his best work. And if I wanted to hear this, I would just go back to the Slim Shady LP.
Yep.
Because that album had the content and the time frame, and it has the nostalgia, and it has the reaction of the FCC after that album dropped. Like there was so much. His music pushed so many boundaries back then that it was that the government literally tried to chill his free speech, which is wild to me.
Yep.
And going back and looking at all those Tipper Gore hearings and everything, it's kind of wild to go back and think about, like, oh my God, you know?
I mean, all of that is
None of that's going to happen with this album,
No.
because this album isn't that album. It's not that time period. And that's what made those moments back then so special.
And this isn't just applying to him. Like, this is the same with Ice Cube and NWA getting their music banned. Fucking D. Snyder. Like, if Twisted Sister puts out a new album, there's not going to be a court hearing now. I can for sure tell you that. Like, times have changed. He is an all-time legend for sure. He's late 90s, early 2000s iconography and always will be. But yeah, continuing to make the same product in this day and age will leave you open for criticisms, of which he knows.
Yep. So, good shit.
All right, man.
Glad you didn't like it. I knew you wouldn't.
Of course. Thanks for throwing it on. All right, let's talk about this new one from Cigarettes After Sex called X's. Did you like this one?
So this album is sleepy as fuck.
Yep.
That was expected with this band. I kind of threw it on just for shits and giggles. You know that I'm not a gigantic fan. We didn't cover any of these singles or whatever, but this is actually a little bit more up-tempo than they normally do. Even for how slow it is, they normally are slower than that. I'm not like a gigantic fan of this band and would probably never like choose to see them live.
Yeah.
You know, due to how incredibly sleepy they are, but they can write a decent song, man. And they've proven that time and time again. The vocalist's voice really does sound incredible, and everything is mixed near perfectly on this one. I surprised myself a bit as I put this on, more than I thought I would for a Cigarettes After Sex album. It's a really good chill out album. The lyrics are really not that good for me, but they did what they're known for doing. Dreamy riffs, dreamy chord progressions, fantastic mixing, and their singer's very famously androgynous voice, just like 4 to 6 beats per minute faster than they normally do. I liked it. I won't be revisiting it much throughout the year. It was good, but I didn't. I guess what I'm saying is I didn't dislike it. I didn't love it or even really like it more than I guess any other Cigarettes After Sex album. Sure. It's a 5 for me. Silver Sable is really good though.
Yeah, I agree, dude. It's fine. It's just another Cigarettes After Sex album, albeit 5 BPM faster, like you said. They do the same thing over and over again. Their fans continue to eat it up. The first time I heard them, felt magical, but that feeling wore off the more I tried to get into their music or the more I would revisit their albums. And that's kind of my experience with this album as well. I listened to it, thought it was good. Listened to it again, thought it was good, but a little less so. Listened to it again, started not to care for it. Maybe their music just isn't meant to be enjoyed in the way that I'm trying to enjoy it. Maybe it's just not for me in the long run, despite being able to appreciate certain aspects. But I thought this album was fine. Like you, I have it at a 5. My standout is Tejano Blue.
What's funny is I saw online somebody said, I fall asleep to Cigarettes After Sex, but I sleep to Brian Eno. Because it's not even suitable for actual sleeping. It's how you get to the sleep.
Oh man, curating that playlist must be a nightmare. Oh geez, that's great. All right, let's talk about this album from JohnSummit, Comfort in Chaos. There's a lot of hype surrounding JohnSummit. He's been on a pretty meteoric rise the past few years. Maybe not quite as meteoric as Fred again, but not far off either. He's gone from playing some like relatively smaller venues to headlining some of the biggest festivals in the world in a matter of a few years. That is not common. Whenever an artist starts to get this popular, especially in the EDM space, people start to wonder if that hype is warranted. The verdict on Summit seems to be split. For the most part, from what I've seen online, he's a love him or hate him artist. I think he's really good personally. You've liked a few songs of his, but haven't really been sold on him as an artist quite yet. No matter where you fall in the discussion, I think it's good when artists create these discussions to be had. The comparison to artists like Cascade aren't really fair, but some of the musical decisions that he makes invite those comparisons. I think a modern equivalent to that sound is a pretty apt description for the most part. he gets a cosign from Cascade in the form of a feature on this album. But the question is the album good? I had some worries about this myself. I loved most of the singles. Where You Are, Shiver, Go Back are all great. Eat the Bass, not so much. So I was wondering how all of these songs would gel together. The answer, for me at least, was pretty good. I think there's still a few duds on here, but for the most part, it works. The singles I mentioned definitely anchor the album, but it's not entirely reliant on them either. I think new tracks like Tears sound nearly on par in terms of quality. Deeper album cuts like Stay With Me flesh things out nicely. It's structured well. It flows well. I think it's a solid debut, man. I'm going to give it a 7. My standout is Where You Are. What are your thoughts on this one, man? I am very anxious to know.
John, it's time for the haters review of Jon Summit's debut album. Spoiler, I actually didn't hate it. For some reason, you know, man, if this album was released by anyone else, I would probably like it more than I do. But that's because it sounds like other people. This has big Cascade. It has some deadmau5 chord progressions. It has Tale of Us percussions and drums. It has those vibes because that's what he's going for. Now, I love all three of those artists, as we've talked about over and over and over again on the podcast. I just find this level of trend chasing a little bit derivative. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, I think he has stepped up his game a little bit with synth progressions and the percussion on this one. The little details in the tracks really make them. I was prepared for most of the album to sound the same as every other Jon Summit track, and I'm actually pretty pleasantly surprised. Tracks like Stay With Me and Give Me Anything don't really fit his mold of frat boy tech house. That's great. Like, honestly, it is. But there's plenty of the frat boy tech house on the album anyways. But like I said, it has a little bit more heart to it. And I think he did what he wanted to do with this. The one that really surprised me, though, John, was the Palm of My Hands, because it really is showing off the skills that I mentioned earlier. It's got really cool synth progressions and percussions. It's not 4/4, and it's still very much him. I was prepared coming into this one to not like it that much, and I kind of disliked that I liked it more than I thought I was going to. I'm going to give it a 6. It's Palm of My Hands or Shiver. Both of those songs are really great.
It's a good closer. It's the Bring Me the Horizon effect. You hate how much you like it.
Yeah, except for Bring Me the Horizon aren't derivative of other artists that I like. Bring Me the Horizon are them, just not them anymore.
Yeah, oddly enough, every other artist in that genre is derivative of Bring Me the Horizon somehow. Same feeling.
Every other metalcore artist is derivative of Bring Me the Horizon from 6 years ago.
Black Sabbath which is somehow derivative of Bring Me the Horizon, if you ask me. All right, man, let's talk about this.
That's just being paranoid.
Maybe. All right, let's talk about this new Remi Wolf album, Big Ideas. I wasn't really listening to Remi when her last album dropped, so this is the first project of hers that I've gotten to follow from rollout to release, and I'm a big fan of the way she operates. Not just musically, but aesthetically as well. I think everything about this release feels thought out, executed to perfection, or at least to the way she had this vision in her mind. I love when it leans into more of a psychedelic soul vibe. The songs where the band starts to open up, like Kangaroo and Wave, were heavy in my rotation this week. I wasn't hot on Toro as a single, but that one's grown on me a lot this week too. I think Cinderella will be the track this album's remembered for, but that's if we're boiling it down to one. Not just because it's the lead single, but because it's just one of those tracks that I think just perfectly encapsulates everything I like about her sound. This album is pretty much everything I wanted it to be / thought it would be. I'm feeling a strong 8 on it. My standouts are Cinderella and Wave. I would really like to see her do more songs like Wave, kind of in that pop rock space. I think she does that sound really well. What did you end up thinking about this one, man?
Well, I liked it almost as much as you did, but for different reasons. So yeah, I love this style of pop music, man, and I think Remi does it really well. Her voice, though, is really unique to her. And tracks like Motorcycle really show that off. It's got that sultry guitar and like the really limited drums with her voice just doing all the heavy lifting. To me, that's where this album really takes off, when she's doing her thing so well that the instruments are just kind of drowned out, and just to pay more attention to her, you know, like not like in the mix, but like in my head. She can clearly write a song. That's more than apparent here. This is 45 minutes of really good traditional pop music with hints of modern flair, sung by someone who knows that her voice is great. That's really all I have to say about this one, man. It's a 7 for me. I think Cinderella is the obvious standout here.
Yeah, I think it's a unanimous good album all across the board. I'm glad you agree with it. My only note, I do wonder how it would sound with just the start at the top of the album going into Cinderella. It is kind of a weird closer if you don't count Slay Bitch. But that aside, man, I think she knocked it out of the park with this one. I'm glad you enjoyed it too.
Yeah, man, sure did.
All right. We got a new album from Action Bronson, Johann Sebastian Baklava, the Doctor. Look, I hit play on this one on a whim. I instantly fell in love with it, dude. I've liked a lot of Action Bronson projects, but this is the one that I think has forever cemented me as a fan. I love the production on it. I love the sequencing, but most of all, I love the bars. Every bar on this album hit for me. The way he moves from like an obscure WrestleMania 12 wrestling reference into some MMA shit feels like he's just inside of my head. Like we've lived similar lives or at least have similar interests and hobbies. That connection just only makes me love him as an artist in this album more. It's the type of album I can listen to a million times and not get tired of, and I'm sure I will. It hits every time I hit play on it, man. We've been getting a lot of good rap lately, and this is up there with the best of it. Instant classic for me. It's in the 8 to 9 range. My standouts are Sega and Nourish a Thug, but you could really just throw a dart at this one, man. Did you enjoy it as much as me?
My man, I am so glad that you enjoyed this album.
Oh, I love it.
I love Action Bronson, dude. Not because he's a good rapper, which he kind of is, but I love Action because there's nothing but his personality in his music. The dude just exudes confidence, authenticity, and massive amounts of weed. He played Coachella in 2013, and he actually brought like a trash bag of weed in containers to throw out into the crowd. I thought that was mega cool of him. Dude is just so him that it's admirable. Obviously, there's plenty of fun bars on here. I missed the WWE reference because I'm not a big wrestling fan, but I will say that lines like what does he say? He goes, "I eat nothing but like a rhino does." Like that doesn't even make sense, but in my head I'm like, yeah, man, fucking get it, you know?
Yep.
Just the way his bars are so uniquely him. I genuinely love that about him. I'm a giant fan of this one as well, dude. Even if the music like isn't amazing at all times, it is amazing because he's on it.
Yeah.
And it's authentic as fuck. It's really entertaining. It's an 8 for me. My standout though is Compressor with Larry June. I think both of them on the same track is just fucking incredible, bro.
Yeah, like you said, you could pick anyone. Alchemist verse on NBA Leather on NBC was really good. The bar that just, I'll pull up to your crib with Exhibit and have him put a fucking fish tank in your Civic, killed me every goddamn time this week, dude. This album is a treat. I'm glad you enjoyed it as much.
Hell yeah.
All right, we got this album from Salute, True Magic. Man, we had so many good albums on the playlist this week. It made picking what I wanted to listen to every day difficult, but despite the stacked lineup, I ended up picking this one a lot. It's the type of dance album that I just can't get enough of. Up there with that last Wave Dash project in terms of my favorites of the year. It's fun, cohesive, it's got a theme that helps tie everything together without feeling like it's getting in the way or being forced in a way that's inorganic. It's musically diverse, it's vocally diverse, does not overstay its welcome. It's exactly what I wanted, man. This one's also in that 8 to 9 range for me. My standouts are Saving Flowers and Liftoff, and bonus little nerd fact that you're going to love. He posted after the album came out that Saving Flowers apparently has a Cassiope sample built into it. So, fun little city pop nerd there.
That what I heard?
Yeah, that a lot of people were like, is that Cassiope? And he like posted yes, and posted this specific thing. So...
Because I could have sworn. So, hey, have we covered Salute before?
I think we covered Saving Flowers as a single, but I don't know if we covered anything prior to that.
John, this album is fantastic.
It's really good.
Working with some of the hottest up and comers while producing some shit that sounds like Disclosure. They've even got a Disclosure feature on this one.
That song is so
and
good.
Creating an album that flows so well, it kind of felt like a mix. Clearly, this is someone that has channeled his inner house head and has just doubled and tripled down on just learning how to make a pop house banger.
Yeah.
And dude, I couldn't stop listening to this week.
Yes.
I wouldn't have it any other way. The dude knows his way around a house track, and the work of all the vocalists used is phenomenal. I'm a big fan of this. It's most definitely an 8. It'll probably graduate to a 9 as the year goes on. One of those nights, though, is probably my favorite of the bunch.
Empress of having a big year, dude. She kills every feature
big
she's on.
year.
Her album was great. This track's great. Yeah, and especially True Magic bonus round going into one of those nights is just so fucking good. That interlude really was where I was like, oh shit, he hasn't missed yet, and this is only getting better. Yeah.
Right. It was like a little chill and then go.
Yeah. Needed that.
Good shit.
Yes, dude. Fuck yeah, dude. I'm glad you enjoyed it too. All right, we got one more album to talk about this week. It's the new one from Elohim called Power of Panic. You kind of introduced me to her music, or at least to getting into it to the degree I have. So what are your thoughts on this one, man? Did it live up to your expectations for it?
Elohim has channeled her inner Feed Me on this project and has put her own Elohim twist on it. With that being said, you know that I fucking loved this one, dude. It is bassy. It's got plenty of really good chord progressions. I think she fucking killed all of the vocals on this one. I'm a big fan. The singles were good, but I think she really found herself on tracks like Breath, as the lyrical content and the way the track is sequenced is just really fucking cool. She's playing around with percussion and different vocal variations throughout the album that she hasn't played around with either in a long time or ever, and never really stopping the beat from doing what it needs to do. Can't Remember Your Name has some like early 2010s energy to it.
Yeah.
And the title track is fantastic with the juxtaposition of those piano loops combined with the bass of those drops. Big fan of this one. It's a 7 to 8 for me. It's Breath is going to be my standout.
Breath's a really good track, man. Yeah, I feel like we did hear a lot of these as singles over the years or so. So, like, trying to hear them with fresh ears or within the context of the album was hard for me at first. But once I got past that, I thought it was really good. I've liked most of what she's been putting out, and I'd been saying I just hope she would package them into an album sooner or later. My wish was granted, so I'm not going to complain. Yeah, it's about what I expected, man. The lack of surprise didn't hurt my overall experience with it. She's a very creative artist who has multiple ways of expressing herself musically. No matter what way she chooses, she has this ability to make it sound distinctly her, like you said. It's really impressive, man. I also have this one in that like 7 range. My standout is Tiny Human. Really like the drop on that one for sure.
Good song.
Yeah, dude. Really good albums this week. I'm glad we were kind of on the same page with most of them. We've got a stacked week coming up next week, though, too. We've got a new album from Childish Gambino coming out, new EPs from Deadmau5 and Denzel Curry, new album from Gorgon City, that Soft Play album's dropping, I think Haley Knox EP's dropping. We're also going to be celebrating the 15th anniversary of Homesick by A Day to Remember next week. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. Big week next week. Make sure you all tune in. That should be a lot of fun. If you're not already following us on social media, you can find us on Instagram and Reddit. Just search Brandon's Face Pod. But most importantly, follow along with the playlist that the podcast is based on. You can find the link to that in the show notes. We update it every Friday with what we will be covering the next week. So just pay attention to that. We'll see you all next time. Peace.
Peace.